for a local communications company here in Anchorage, Alaska. Take care of like the phone systems and networks and stuff.
My name is Nick Delaportis. I own Underground Performance and Off-Road in Alaska. I own a business trying to thrive and survive in the Arctic of all places. I grew up on the East Coast, moved up here. Man, love the environment, love the people, love the scene. But we basically started up a shop to help promote motorsports in Alaska.
I am Nick Saropoulos. I'm our club vice president. I work for a living.
My name is Paul Carter, one of the two owners here at Element Automotive, aviation safety professional for the federal government. Here at Element, we're kind of a unique shop that's set up not quite for performance, but more performance and maintenance of your high performance and high-end vehicles.
Been around the club for quite a while. Been doing an awful lot of the flagging, taking care of the pylons, the flags, material that we need to go ice racing, or material that we need to go downtown racing.
Right now, two of the three of us here at the shop are racing, and presently we're working on our third. We also sponsor a couple of drivers that perform pretty well in our series. This past autocross series, we had three drivers that were sponsored by Element Automotive, meaning we take care of their performance needs, oils, lubricants, other necessities like that, as well as cover entry fees. And then we take care of them here before and after the events.
I was an officer of the club for maybe 15 years or so. He was interested in getting a car race on the streets. It was really expensive to get insurance the first time around.
9 years now. One of my good friends has been in the club. Actually, a bunch of my friends have been in the club forever and a day, and it was just kind of a thing to do at the time. So.
I started racing back when I was about 10, two-wheeled motocross racer. Moved from that into four-wheelers, and then got into the automotive scene once I grew up a little bit. At about 16, started playing with what I thought was fast back then, which was my Cavalier and my S10 little pickup. First real fast car for me was my 99 Grand Prix. Modded that out pretty well. Run low 12s, high 11s in the quarter mile. To the GM platforms, played with rotaries in between there as well, and then jumped to Subaru right around 2008.
I have a dune buggy that I bought. The guy that I bought it from bought the kit, the Myers-Meigs kit. But I went there and had it, worked on and fixed. And he was into ice racing at the time. At that time, they ice raced out on Sand Lake. Since it was in town, it was a bigger thing.
This dude Mark comes rolling in with these little tires, and I knew he had some race cars, but this 13-inch set of tires with like 1,200 screws sticking out of it. I asked him what it was for. He told me it was Big Lake ice races, man. And ever since then, it was over. Once I saw that tire, man, super stoked where it was at. A lot of the vehicles that we push end up being something just enough out of the box. The complications that we run into is we have to build a vehicle typically that will run good from sea level to 5,000 foot elevation. We've got 100 to 150 degree temperature swings. The builds that we do, people expect them to run 50 below and 85 above. It makes it a little complicated. Plus we've got a really short race season, at least for the summer.
One of the craziest ones we've done is our 93 Impreza. It started out as a garage project. 93 Subaru Impreza front-wheel drive automatic car. We built it in the course of a weekend using a bunch of donor parts and put it together to become a 2.5 turbocharged all-wheel drive vehicle. Its first weekend out, we cleaned up the rally, won that. Just ran it hard ever since for about 4 years. Just kept evolving into something that became pretty well known around as 5x5 or triple nickel, depending on what people wanted to call it. And we built it as a replica car of the actual Colin McRae race car. Performance was pretty unmatched. There wasn't a lot of cars that could keep up with it, save for a few. It was a lot of fun. It was one of those unique projects that takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. Mostly it comes down to research, and that's what we're pretty proud of here. It's the fact that we can do the research and put the right parts together. It's not about throwing every part at a car. It's about picking the right parts that are actually going to work together. And we're really proud of that.
Racing has always been a part of me since I was about 3 years old when I started racing here in Alaska. It started with my mom and my dad. My dad raced go-karts up here, both indoor and outdoor. My mom would tell me stories of when I was super little that I'd go out to the racetrack and they'd set me in my little playpen and I'd fall asleep as soon as the go-kart started racing around. Even from an early age, motorsports is always a big thing for me. This is a 1995 Mitsubishi Evo 3. It's a right-hand drive car that originally came from Japan. It was originally dynoed at 380 horsepower at the wheels down in California when it was tuned by Brian Fujita down there, who actually has another Evo 3 in this country. These are pretty rare cars. There's only a couple of them that are street legal in the country. It's a car that had a lot of racing pedigree and heritage. They raced in the WRC in the mid-90s. And this car actually used to have all the same graphics that it raced with back in the 90s. So we actually did get a couple of pictures with those two cars before we took all the stickers off of this one. The reason it doesn't have any more of the stickers on it anymore is the person that I had acquired the car from, he got in an accident in it, and he came to me and he said, "I'm leaving in 2 weeks. You know this drivetrain, because I played with all the early Eclipses and Talons for the last 12 years. He said, I know you appreciate and love this car as much as I do. I'll honor that and rebuild the car." And I shipped out literally half a car that was cut from here back, and from here out to here with these doors. Replace this whole side of the car.
This is a 1978 Datsun that I bought originally as a street car. It's got a small block Chevy in it. Drivetrain's been worked over, a few other odds and ends. They're always a work in progress, so it'll be different the next time you see it too. So I've got a rear diff out of an Infiniti Q45 that I need to put in it so I can get gears that are a little more desirable, a little cheaper, a little easier to swap in and out.
We have a couple of under the radar, we'll say. We have 2 all-wheel drive builds for an open class this coming summer. Should be ice racing with at least 2 other vehicles, and those are all both all-wheel drive platforms. A couple of drag projects that we're working on right now. I had the privilege to race in the last Ferrari Grand Prix that happened a couple of years ago in our own shop, RX-7, and that turned out pretty good. Immediately, I'm working on a 2006 C6 Corvette, stock LS2 motor, 15 pounds of boost through an Edelbrock supercharger. We just put headers and an alcohol injection system on it. Battling heat soak right now, trying to get this thing tuned before I have to catch a plane in a couple of hours.
To be expected. It's a good time.
You know, with Mike Ruis, we've been racing a long time. That's pretty fun. Whether it's ice racing, rallycross, autocross, we've done it all. Back and forth with each other, really pushing each other as competitors. And I'm also pretty proud of a drag race grudge match with Shaggy once in his Evo. I left with a broken axle and he had the fastest time, so.
And the fastest dollar.
And I signed the dollar bill.
The scene is actually a lot more stable now. The race scene's actually it's slowly getting growth. New people coming in, a lot of new cars being built. There's actually some real legit competition going on out there, which is cool for me because then I have a reason to build more cars and push customers and push people to race.
I think anybody that autocrosses or rallycrosses should be out there ice racing. Ice racing in the rubber to ice class was one of the best learning experiences that I have ever had in car handling and maneuvering. I learned all the basics about passing, about making clean passes, about holding your line, and all the racing fundamentals. While you can learn car control in an autocross situation, the rubber to ice class in wheel-to-wheel ice racing is by far the best bang for the buck you can spend. It's a no-contact sport where you have virtually no risk of truly damaging a vehicle, save for your own pride. You can put yourself into the snowbank, you might end up there, you might crack a fender liner or tear one out like I did in my STI. Things happen. But the same thing could happen if I hit a curb here in Anchorage. So the risk, I think, is relatively low for the benefit. The
Super stud car is almost more fun than driving on asphalt. In fact, it probably is. Just because of the way the car behaves, the setup, the way you drive it, it's completely different. You use momentum and the pedal instead of a brake and a steering wheel. So that's always a good time.
Community buy-in and community involvement. What we've seen even over the last couple of years is more and more of our sites that we're able to race at just going away. And if we could find a way to improve community engagement by promoting the right attitude when it comes to our car clubs and our motorsports, I think we would be a lot better served. We don't have a true track. So when it comes down to our wheel-to-wheel racing, all we have is Anacross, all we have is ice racing. Big hope is that we can improve the community involvement and bring back the Ferrari Grand Prix, one of the longest running road races in the United States.
There's always the financial aspect of it to get investors in. A lot of it boils down to just population, and that's just from a business perspective. Having, under 800,000 people in the entire state, and most of it is pretty spread out, makes it a little difficult to be able to consistently do that. I mean, we know firsthand, it's pretty tough staying in business. People have money up here, and they would put money into motorsports and track events, but there's a lot less people to pull from.
We had made a big drive to get some land out of Point Lawrence off. We got a lot of support for it, but no money. I think the way the political situation is in town now, the people that are there now have a different, complete outlook than the people that ran Anchorage 30 or 40 years ago. I don't see them putting in the dollars that it takes for us to have a race downtown.
Definitely like to do some rallycross type stuff. Small market for it. With the rough terrain that Alaska has, as long as we can get permission to kind of use it, definitely we'll see some more babies with that.
Really excited to see what the community and the racing brings this year. We've got a lot of crazy things going on. People are pretty excited about this season. And if it pans out like I think it's going to pan out, there's going to be some real shaking and moving inside the organization. What's really nice about our community is that at the end of the day, 99% of us go home as friends. Not only do we race hard, but we work together to make it all happen, and that's kind of nice and unique about our scene up here.
Alaska's pretty crazy. It's probably the most diverse place I've ever lived and ever been. Even the automotive or motorsport scene, off-roading, you can get pretty much anything you want. Everything's pretty killer.
Don't underestimate where we're from. We don't live in igloos, we have toys. It's fun to come and play. Motorsports are great. Anytime you can do anything grassroots with a group of people like we have, it's always a good time. It's always a good thing. We get to help out lots of people along the way, do lots of charity work, which I think is wonderful. It's just a fun thing to do all around. It's a good time.